Hey, what's up, YouTube famo? How you doing? So, I wanted to talk about something I saw interesting. I found quite interesting. And, it's actually delayed. This is kind of old news. I hate that. I like to be cutting edge, like talk about things that are relevant right now, but this is old news. Andrew Wilson got destroyed. Now, if you don't know about it, I'm sure you do. But if you don't know, the first thing was the pickle jar. It's like, okay, you can't open a pickle jar. That's embarrassing. But that was just funny material. It was just something to laugh at him and move on. That really wasn't a career ender. I mean, I've had some pickle jars. I'm just like red in the face, like, holy smokes. Someone glue this, but I always defeated the pickle jar. As an adult, I always defeated it. I may have had to wipe my hands. I may have had to grab a piece of cloth or something to get a better grip. Maybe I had to put grip in between my thighs and use all my strength, but I always defeated the pickle jar. So, that being said, that's all that was. Getting caught on camera not being able to open the pickle jar was embarrassing, but it could have just been laughed off. Now, that one girl, she licks sniz. This girl points out to him, it's like, you got a wife and you're the third baby daddy. She got two baby daddies and you. And he did not like that one bit. And his response really showed how weak he is on that subject, because her pointing that out really does make him a hypocrite. Makes him a hypocrite. Now, I never really followed the guy constantly, but every once in a while, like most people, I would stumble on a clip of him. Lots of times I'd see him arguing about Israel and culture war crap, and I didn't find him particularly groundbreaking in his ideas, He's just noise, in my opinion. But he goes on his podcast and he just trashes girls. Now, it's easy to trash the dummy girls. And yes, there are some girls that are just dummies. There's some guys that are dummies. There's some girls that are dummies. And these are the girls that he would mostly trash. Girls that are like on OnlyFans getting drilled by a different dude every day, talking about, I want a man that's 6'7", got 7 figures, and I want him to take care of me, and I'm going to keep making my money off OnlyFans. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, you're a clown, girl. Like, guys don't want that, just some run-through porno star. Like, yeah, it'd be fun for the night. They're not going to marry you. But that's easy. But he also moved on to girls that like trashing feminists, calling them stupid. It's like, well, dude, you're just like berating these girls at this point. It'd be much better to say, I disagree with you. This is why. You reject my argument. Fair enough. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not arguing to change your mind. I'm arguing to change the minds of the viewers who are watching me. And I'm not going to get anyone to see my point of view by being like, shut your bitch mouth. You're so stupid. You like sniz. Like, what, dude? What, you don't? Okay. Happy wife, happy life, right, dude? But anyway, his response pretty much destroyed him, because it showed that when she called him out on it, he's a hypocrite. He's sitting there preaching all this, talking about like he's the flagship for how men should act, and he's not following at all. So that brings me to the next point: celebrity worship. Lots of times people will be fans, and it happens to everybody. It happens to me. I'll be a big fan of someone, and then I find out they ain't shit. Cardi B said the same thing when she met Madonna. She said, man, you grow up idolizing these people, and then you meet them, and it's such a disappointment. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. And that's something to take to the bank. Yes, you can love what these people portray on their podcasts or on television. You can love the characters they play. And then you meet them in person and you're just like, oh my goodness. Why did I even like this person? You know? I get it. But that happens to people a lot. And I think that happened to a lot of people who were watching Andrew Wilson. I think that's his name. I keep forgetting. They're watching him, and it's a disappointment. I get it. And now you got Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate, you know, he really gets into what women would call toxic masculinity. It's like you're supposed to get lots of money, have 10 Corvettes, bang 1,000,000 women, but you only marry the ones who are virgins. It's like, all right, where are these 10 million women coming from? You know, you're just banging the same girls and running through them that every other guy is. I mean, you can't have one guy bang 10 million different women each, all of them virgins, and expect you're going to find a virgin and marry her. Don't be ridiculous, dude. That mathematically, that makes no sense. Mathematically, it doesn't. Now, what I would say is the red pill manosphere needs some new leaders. It needs some new leaders, and I will volunteer myself. I will say that I am a perfect example of a manosphere leader. Why? Because I'm flawed. I'm honest about it, you know? And I'm not going to sit there and berate women because of their lifestyle. I'll tell them your lifestyle's wrong. I'll tell them what you're doing is wrong. I think you're making a big mistake. Here's why. But, and this is when you make these kinds of decisions, you're limiting yourself on future options. I'll explain that without having to be like, you're so dumb. You're so stupid. You stupid bitch. It's like, dude, no. Like, I'm not even a big fan of arguing with women, dude. I don't argue with them back and forth on social media. I don't argue with anyone on social media back and forth. But if I'm going to argue with women, it's going to be a controlled disagreement. I'm not going to lose my temper with them. But anyway, I volunteer myself for the manosphere because I make my mistakes and I own up to it, but the goal remains the same. See, a lot of young guys do kind of need someone to point to them in the right direction. So you ask me, here's my stance on it. Number one, stop watching people doing things rated X on the internet. Stop that. Stop looking at people doing the nasty on the internet. Stop watching girls get naked on the internet. Certainly don't pay them any money, but I would tell you don't even watch it for free. All right? That's number one. And now I know a lot of guys are going to have a tough time with that. Well, it's a struggle. There's resources to help you, believe it or not. You know, me, I used to have a problem. I stopped. I realized it wasn't healthy. It wasn't productive. It wasn't healthy for my marriage. And I didn't like how it increased my tolerance to seeing these things. You know, when I was a little kid, I used to get my rocks off digging through my friends' neighbors' garbage every week because he used to get dirty magazines and he'd cut out the 1-900 number advertisements and throw them away. And we used to dig through his garbage to find the advertisements for the 1-900 numbers. You think looking at those advertisements now for me is going to do anything? No. My tolerance, man. It's not healthy. So that's number one. You got to stop doing that. Number two, guys should be very heavily focused on their career. I am a firm believer that when guys talk, the question that is inevitably going to come up is, what do you do for a living? How do you make your money? How do you categorize yourself? Look, I could work as a steel inspector all day, and then on the weekends paint pictures and send my pictures out for auction and make money. If I decide to do that, and then someone says, what do you do for a living? I could say, I'm an artist. That may not be my primary source of income. My primary source of income is my union job. But I consider myself an artist. That's my love, and I get money for it. That's fair. Because when a guy asks you about your career, he asks you about your job. He's asking how you categorize yourself. What do you classify yourself as? A man, it's what men talk about. It's how men see you. It's how men see themselves. It defines the kind of person you are. It defines the way that you speak certain words. The way you're doing that, I found to be in compliance. It's in compliance with quality requirements. That's not things that lawyers say. That's not things that football coaches say. Football coaches will use a whole lot of metaphors, football terminology. Like, uh-oh, buddy, you're in the red zone there, talking about things that have no relevance to reality. He just put it there because that's how he speaks. Your job, your career is important. And so I would tell you, invest in that heavily. It defines you amongst your peers. It defines how you see yourself. Now, I told you to quit watching things you shouldn't be looking at on the internet. You need to focus heavily on your career. And yes, you should be focused on your income. Even though you don't have to be a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. But I have dignity in my job. One thing you do have to do is show pride in your performance. Say, this is my job, and I'm damn good at it. One of the best. You should push for that. You should, because that shows excellence in your practice. When you do that, it means you pay attention to details. You show pride in your performance. Next thing, every guy should know the basics on using equipment, tools. They should be able to make a birdhouse. If you give him the right tools, he should have some tools. A man should have a tool shed. Even if it's not an amazing tool shed, he should have access to tools and should be able to do something. Build a shelving unit. Make it sturdy. I've made lots of things. And look, I'm not Mr. Handyman. I'm not the guy who can fix anything, but I can fix things. I installed the tankless water heater inside my mobile home. I built shelves for my house. I think I put some of it on my YouTube channel. I can do things with tools. I can't do everything, but it's enough to give me that sense of accomplishment on home improvements. A man should be able to do some basic things to improve the home. Should be able to fix things around the house. I put together the septic line that runs the toilet to the septic tank. Was it professionally done? No, but it works. It's a big deal. I put up the skirting around the bottom. I'm still having problems with my water lines freezing, but that's a whole different story. I know what the problem is. A man should be able to identify that. Even if you're an office jockey, even if you push pencils and punch numbers in calculators for a living, you should be able to go home and put some nails and screws inside of some wood for something. All right? So now, there. And you should buy, not rent. Now, and then after that, I'm not going to tell you the standards that you should have for a woman in terms of her body count, Now, I wouldn't suggest marrying a porno star, a girl that's like, I've had intercourse with 500 men in one day. I'm pushing for the world record. That girl that broke the record and she did 1,000 guys in a day. No. I'll tell you right now, I stand 10 toes down. That's not marriage material. It's not. But she's got a man for her somewhere. Maybe another porno dude. Maybe. I'm not saying she's condemned to be alone forever, but you need to find a good girl. You need to find a girl who is strong where you are weak, and who is weak where you are strong. And yes, I'm a firm believer in traditional jobs, but I also give it elbow room. For instance, I earn most of the money in the family. My wife earns some. I don't like the fact that she has to work. It's not a huge job, but she does have to. We live in a two-income economy, and I don't like it, but I'm also based in reality, and it is what it is. That's me. You should try to be the sole breadwinner, but at the same time, it's okay if you're not, And you got to find your gifts and her gifts and make sure they work together. Now, I'm not a good cook. I'm not good at cleaning, but I make good money. I make the majority of the money, and I'm absent-minded with paying bills. So I make the money, and my wife handles the finances. Traditionally, that's a man's job to be the financial guy. Well, you know what? She's strong where I'm weak. I'm forgetful. I lose track of what bills I've paid and what I haven't. And I think a lot of guys could say the same thing. It still makes for a healthy marriage. That's just fine. Some girls, man, they got a heart of gold. They're doing what they can. They're just not gifted cooks. And maybe you are. That's fine. If it's a traditional womanly role, but you're better at it and you have the ability, don't have to be restricted by these traditional rules. It's things that would be good. It would be good to marry a wife who can cook, but it'd also be good if you could cook yourself. And then on top of that, I want to point out something. If you're the sole breadwinner, it was like that before I went to prison. My wife didn't have a job at all. Then I went to prison. And she didn't have a resume or nothing. She had no source of income. So, something else to consider. Because any wise financial man will tell you to diversify your income. If you are investing, you should probably have some precious metals, probably have some commodities, maybe invested in oil companies, maybe invest in Google or Amazon, some safe ones, maybe put out some, more risky ones like some electric power equipment. I saw that one was risky. But it made some good money if you knew when to sell and when to buy. But that's good. You should diversify, though. You shouldn't just dump all your money into gold. Just like you got $1, now you bought some gold backs. I would say buy some gold, but don't buy it 100%. So, I would tell guys, I think I am a perfect candidate for the manosphere. Because even though I will tell you, yes, these are things you should strive to be. And yes, I could give you the ideals. And yes, I could tell you your goals to true happiness, to be a spiritual leader in the house. Spiritual leader, a leader of your family, someone that your wife and your children can look up to. However, I also realize these are things to strive for. But man, getting a perfect score, very unlikely, very hard. I don't have a perfect score. I would tell you what a man should do is not go to prison. I did. It's not awesome. Not proud of it. Ashamed of it. Fucked up my whole life. But what defines us is how you bounce back from these things. And saying that I was let out I was let out in March of 2023. I'm somewhere between 2.5 and 3 years. All right. In that time, I bought a half acre, put a house on it, got the house in compliance with the county. I believe so. They never said anything, but they never did their inspection. And now I'm focused on paying off my debt, got my kids in private school, gained all the certifications I had, regained them all when I lost them all, regained all the certifications I had prior to my incarceration, I did that all within 2.5 to 3 years. And I think that I should be proud of myself for that. So a 5-minute pat on the back. Yay! Now get back to work. Because as a man, you should never be happy and content with where you are. You should be pleased with yourself, but you always need to look for improvement in yourself, improvement in your lifestyle, improvement in how your family is living. You should never become complacent. If you're not learning, you're forgetting. If you're not fixing up your house is going to shit. You need to always be striving to be better and do better. That one, I will stand 10 toes down on that. So you could be fat, ugly, stupid, addicted to Mountain Dew and naked ladies on the internet. You need to strive to do better, work to do better. Or you could be like Mr. Andrew Tate. You know, I got $1 million. I get laid every night. Ha ha! Look at me, I'm so awesome. You should always strive to do better. Find where you're weak. Tighten it up. Be strong. Do better. Work towards that. No matter what. No matter how pitiful or how alpha you are, you should always strive to do better. And don't get wrapped up in these celebrity love. These people, if they are a success on the internet or on TV, that's because they are successful at playing to their audience's attention. And sometimes that means throwing away some of your own morals to give your audience confirmation, reassurance. Tell them what they want to hear. You know? Tell them what they want to hear. And that way they'll watch again. I'm not going to do that. As a result, I probably won't be successful, at least on the internet. But that's all right, because the whole point of this show I'm making on YouTube is to document my success and show people that you can bounce back, you can do better. And to be a man fresh out the joint who, had his family crapping in a bucket. It's a big deal to show my accomplishments and to show people you can do it. Because I see young people, I can't buy a house. I can't buy a house. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you can't afford it, build it. Yes, you can. You most certainly can. I don't care how much or how little you make. There is nothing that you cannot accomplish. I guarantee that. I didn't have nothing. And now I got something. And I'm making my something better. And I hope everyone can do the same thing. And I hope my lifestyle motivates us. I'm going to put this video on Facebook too. That's how much I think I'm cooking. I'm just cooking. So, hopefully everyone understands what I'm saying. Press like, comment, subscribe. Or if you're a Facebook user, one of my Facebook friends, comment, say hello. And yes, I will answer any questions that anyone has. Any question at all. But I don't expect many questions, but sometimes I get them. All right, later, Gators.